This is alchemy, empowering those who care. Owners, caregivers, they gon' get you there. Expert insights, real stories, and more. Real strategies to help you grow for sure.
Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the Alchemy Podcast, where care meets innovation. I'm your host, Ilya Vrajec, and I'm joined today by Linda, who we met at a conference, and I think you have a very unique thing that you're doing. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in music and music with the elderly?
Great. So our organization is called Audrey's Angels. We're a nonprofit organization that was founded in October 2001. So we're celebrating 25 years of enriching lives through music.
Wow.
Yeah, so the Audrey of Audrey's Angels is actually my mother-in-law. So she and I started this along with my late father-in-law, Robert, after the family had to place our great aunt in one of these care homes. What we do is we bring music into the small senior care homes throughout the valley. I was Auntie Betty's caregiver at the time, and I would visit her, take care of her, shop for her, do all that. She lived about 4 blocks away from me, and she had a dog. And we said, do not take that dog for a walk by yourself. So one day I pull up in my red minivan, and there she is with the dog, and the dog pulled her over on the sidewalk. So fast forward, we had to take her to Life Care Center. And I believe we're in denial about what was happening with Auntie Betty, the dementia. We really didn't know about it. So we were told at the hospital she could not live alone. I had small kids at the house, so I couldn't have her move in with us. We didn't have the room. We were given a list of care homes for Auntie Betty to move into. Now, I've lived in Arizona since, I think, 1974. I didn't know these care homes existed. What they are is they look like any other home on the street. They're licensed for 10 residents. Some are just up to 5. We have large facilities throughout Arizona, but I didn't know about these care homes. And we knew Auntie Betty just would lose herself in a large facility. She needed a family setting, and that's what these care homes offer. So we were given a list of about 10 homes to drive around and see what might work best for her. Mm-hmm. And once the homeowner, Radhika, opened the door to a home in Scottsdale, we knew this is going to be wonderful for Betty. Lovely people that were there, lovely caregivers, beautiful, clean home. And I continued to visit Betty every day and realized, I'm really the only one coming here. At that time, I believe there were 6 other women living in that home. So I started trying to visit with them, take them on errands, and we realized we need to do something to bring enrichment into the homes. Again, these homes, they lovingly take care of their residents, but they're so busy. The caregivers are so busy. The owners are so busy. So we said, what can we do to help? We took Radhika out to lunch and we brought up the idea. Audrey had the idea. Let's bring music in. Let's bring interactive crafts in. And Radhika loved that idea. She said, oh, goodness, there is a definite need for that. So that's how we got started. With the help of 9 volunteers, we started at 5 different homes. We had the help from Dr. Maribeth Gallagher, who is the dementia coordinator at Hospice of the Valley. And she's also a very talented singer. And she helped us teach our musicians how to best meet the need of these residents. A lot of our musicians play at coffee houses and festivals, but this is a different gig, if you will. We want to go into the homes and meet the residents where they are, sit with them, make eye contact with them, and get them engaged. So that's why we started this program.
That's really awesome. And one of the reasons why I kind of connected when I saw your booth when we met, I don't know if I had mentioned this or if you even remember it, but I remember how much music played a role in our facilities. We had somebody that came in and the residents always loved it. They always loved even the one, like we dealt with a lot of dementia and Alzheimer's, right? And a lot of them were non-communicative, but you would see them start to move their hand or do something that was with the music that was really, really cool. And I remember, I don't know if it was like 60 Minutes or something like that, but there was something that was like, this was on like 15 years ago. And it was this really cool story of this lady that she was a ballerina and she had really, really, severe dementia and couldn't really communicate. But when that music came on, that was that ballerina music, she would start to do things with her hands. And I always loved that connection between music and, again, people who can't necessarily speak or do things on their own, but music had a strong connection there, right? And you've been doing this for so long. What would you say in the 25 years that you've been doing this? What have you learned about loneliness in small care homes that surprised you?
Well, what surprised me pretty early on is how few of these residents have regular visitors. Arizona has been known as a melting pot state, so there's so many people that live out here that do not have extended family. So that's where the isolation comes in, wanting to just stay in their room because they can no longer communicate. It feels safer to just stay in their room. Well, we wanted to bring them out so they can have fellowship, so they can engage, so they can get a connection with the outside world. There are over 2,000 of these small care homes in the state of Arizona, and majority of them are right here in the greater Phoenix area. But again, we really learned also during COVID, it affected, of course, everybody, but we had to completely shut down. March 12th, we got the phone call from the governor and we had to start making calls and shutting down. We received a lot of phone calls and emails from the homeowners saying, I don't know what to do. Our residents are so lonely. They didn't understand it. They thought everyone was angry at them. And we thought, what can we do? How can we still engage them and give them some enrichment in their lives? So we actually at the time had a high school musician and he was working on his Eagle badge. And he said, I've got an idea. We're going to bring the music to them via Zoom. Now, I had no idea what Zoom was at the time. So I'm like, all right, what does that mean? So he was able to raise funds and he got equipment to give to some of the homes that were interested in doing this so they could have it on their TV. And every Friday at 11:30, we had our musicians doing our quote live music that way. And they loved it. They loved it. It was just that connection. And we also then started, once the weather got nicer in Arizona, in October that year, we did patio performances so that the residents could hear the music from open windows or open doors or staying, 6 feet away. And it was just really obvious then that so much of that outside world connection is needed. These are people that created our community and they're often forgotten.
100%. One of the movies that I love, the movie Up, or the little cartoon movie, Up.
Yes.
And that beginning scene where, he's reflecting back on this whole life that he's had, the good times and the bad times of this whole life that they've had. And I often think about that when it comes to residents in facilities, elderly, right? Like a lot of times the caregivers get them in this stage, but it's important to remember that they had a whole life before. Some of them were, nurses and pilots and, all kinds of different things. And so it's so true that they've built our communities and now they're kind of just there. So you were seeing this need of, again, facilities being really overwhelmed and the need for some volunteer. Was music the first kind of option that you kind of thought about, or was music really the most impactful of the type of volunteer things that could be done? Was that the case, or talking about that?
Yeah, music was the first thing that Audrey thought about. And when we talked to Radhika, she said, absolutely, we have Cowboy Bob coming in once a month, and that's about all. We also did start with crafts, and that would be with a different population that would be sitting around the craft table in the kitchen. We would bring all the supplies in. And with that, we were getting a lot of stories and history because you're just sitting there with them chatting as they're doing a simple craft. The music also, though, brings out their stories, like you were talking about. We had a gentleman that the caregivers had no idea. He was an orchestra conductor. And they realized once he started conducting when the music was playing. Another woman used to be a rockette in New York and got up and was doing the kicks during all of that. So a lot of stories come out when the music starts playing.
What is there any, again, I saw that 60 Minutes or whatever program it was that kind of talked about this, but is there can you speak to any like the science of why, like what actually happens emotionally, or like what's happening in the body or to them? Like, why is music so powerful?
Studies show that the part of our brain that holds our music memory is the last to be affected with those in dementia. We don't know why, but that's what happens. And when a song comes up that a resident remembers, it can awaken them again. It can help connect that disconnected brain. And there is a science behind that. Any age, you hear a song that it's going to bring you right back to that date or that day at the beach, or goodness, even grocery stores do that. They know the demographics. They're going to pump all this music in for the age group that they know is shopping at that time. And all of a sudden you're filling your cart because you're feeling good. You're buying more. It affects them. It really helps organize, like I said, their disorganized brain. It awakens them. I was doing, whenever someone wants to get involved, a musician to get involved in our organization, we hold an audition, an introductory session. We know that they're musically inclined if they're reaching out to us, but they need to understand what it's like to reach the residents in these homes through their gift of music. I was holding an audition with this gentleman, and I like to get there first to gauge the room and to see the effect once the music starts playing. There was a woman just sitting there, just staring. And she's then started closing her eyes. And through a few songs, she was sleeping. And there was other residents there and saying, "Oh, yeah, and we want to do this song." And one woman said, "Please play In the Good Old Summertime." And all of a sudden, the woman that appeared to be sleeping opened her eyes, sat up straight, started enjoying the snack that had been put in front of her, beverage that had been put in front of her. And she said, "Yes, in the good old summertime." She stayed engaged through that whole song. And when the song was over, she closed her eyes again. So it just awakens you and it helps bring you present.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many stories of that. It's so cool that music can do that. Like you said,
Yeah.
It's like brings you back to those memories of being younger or the beach or whatever it is. And there's a difference between, like, I know, like going to like a live concert versus listening it to on the radio. Is there any, can you speak? Is there any difference with like the elderly versus live, having somebody come in versus maybe on the radio, or maybe it's even the TV or something? Like, is there a difference there in terms of how residents, how elderly are responding?
Yes, I really believe there is, because we have a human coming in, smile at them, using their name. "How are you today, Joan? It's so good to see you again. Are there certain songs you'd like to hear?" And nothing can take the place of that human contact, that human interaction. Yes, it's wonderful to have music playing and that they know and that they like, but it's also giving the residents an ownership to say, "I like Elvis music," or "I like this type of music," and letting them know that they're valued, that it's worth someone's time to come and spend an hour with them.
I just thought about this. Is there a difference between one-on-one versus group?
Well,
In terms of reaction, or
it just depends on the home. There could be one resident that is just singing and clapping and enjoying it. That's giving joy to the others that really can't communicate. So I've seen that. I've seen it more one-on-one with maybe two other people just kind of sitting there and enjoying. But these homes, it's such an intimate setting. You're in a small family room. And even though they're licensed for up to 10, usually it's about 5 or 7 that might be sitting around in the family room. Sometimes it's 3. But I also watch a lot of the residents care for each other. I watch them come in, and one might be making sure that her friend has her beverage or what she needs. And I watch them have such joy when that resident then starts going, "I know this song. I'm going to start singing." Or they might go, "Wow, I've never heard Sally talk before. Now she's singing." So they really feed off of each other with these experiences.
And it sounds like the types of music that cause the strongest reactions is really music that is somehow connected to their past. Right?
Yes. When we started this in 2001, we were playing a bicycle built for two. Now we're going into more of the 60s, early 70s, and we want them to hear and enjoy the music from their era.
And I think that's actually probably, I mean, I don't know what you'd say this, but probably a good piece of advice on the intake form is to ask specific what types of songs or genres or artists did mom or dad listen to that might that might have an impact on them, so that kind of music can be played. Sometimes it's just as simple as asking, right?
Yes. Or asking the family member, what does mom like to listen to? So absolutely. And I believe that a lot of the homeowners do that. They want to know about the residents. But like I said, sometimes if the resident is not communicating, they don't know what happened in their past until they start hearing about the stories when our musicians are there.
Yeah, that's really powerful. Do you notice any so you're there for a session, let's say it's an hour or whatever time that you're there. Do you know if there's any effects that carry over? Like, is their mood better throughout the day, or do they get better sleep, or is their appetite up? Is there anything or any science, anything backed or anything like that is connected to, hey, this 1 hour it's obviously great during that time, but there's also the rest of the day or things like that.
And we do hear that it does carry over. The effects carry over throughout the day. There's something called sundowners that most of the residents deal with. And literally, when the sun goes down, they start getting depressed. And we've heard from the homeowners and caregivers that when our angels are there for 1 hour, we refer to our musicians as our music angels, they eat better, they sleep better, they're calmer, they're less combative. Another story I saw when I did an audition, there was a woman that was just not in a good mood. She was banging on the tray that was on her wheelchair, and the caregiver was talking calm, rubbing her back, trying to calm her down as our musician was setting up. And he started playing. And once he started playing, that woman stopped banging, calmed down, put her hands down, smiled, and clapped after every song. So I know that carried on for a bit with her whole mood that day.
That's awesome. So that's a great thing to do for residents that are combative or get combative, is sometimes more medication isn't the answer. It could be music, right? Music could be one of those things that, and we don't always think, don't think to try, which is kind of cool. It sounds like your organization, from a volunteer standpoint, obviously there's lots of musicians. Is it one thing where you just constantly getting volunteers and that's pretty easy, or is it difficult?
Well, we do offer a stipend to our musicians because most will just travel across the Maricopa County area. And we want to be mindful of the upkeep on their instruments and the gas and all of that. So we do have some fundraisers to raise funds for that. We go to a percentage of the homes completely free of charge. Some that have a budget pay a nominal fee for us to come there. We get funding through Alzheimer's Foundation of America, through the Arizona Commission on the Arts, and through United Healthcare Community Plan. So we have a lot of support there. We find our musicians mainly by word of mouth. When we started, it was going to festivals and coffee houses, but now it's basically word of mouth and going to some of their festivals.
Yeah, I bet. We went and visited a facility. We weren't doing music, we were just visiting people, and it was fun to, as a volunteer, be able to give something, right? And I think it's probably very fun for your musicians to go and do this, right? It's a two-way thing. It benefits the residents, but it's also benefiting them, how they feel.
It absolutely does. I hear that a lot. They say, I think I'm getting more out of it, than there. And they become friends with the residents. We'll rotate the musicians in, but a lot of their schedules at certain homes, and certain homes say, wait, we need to only have these musicians here right now. They really, like I said, get a friendship going, find out more about what's going on in their life. Some have brought in books knowing that is the resident's favorite author. A gentleman, one of our musicians that plays a guitar, one of the residents came out and he said, here's my old guitar. It's all beat up. I don't play it anymore. So our music angel, Richard, took that home, restrung it for him, and brought it back. So it's
Oh, that's
not
cool.
just, hey, we're here to sing for an hour. There's relationships and true engagement going on.
That's cool. That's really cool. And obviously we've talked a lot about the residents, but what does it do for, staff, caregivers? Like you talked about, like caregivers are so busy, people are so busy. Like, what do you see? What kind of effect do you see bringing music into the home, into these care homes? What does it do for the care staff?
It's so much fun because sometimes they're in preparing the food, the next meal. And most of these homes, especially in Arizona, your kitchen is right there with your family room. So we always make sure that a caregiver is present when our musicians are there. But I've witnessed them singing and dancing and coming into the room and dancing with the residents that are able to. So it's bringing an hour of joy to the staff as well. And they're always like, oh my goodness, thank you so much. That was wonderful. Oh, I love that voice. And I've heard them singing from other rooms, other staff members, while our musicians are playing. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, since music is so important and obviously your organization in Arizona, people can, those that don't know about you already can obviously reach out to you, but those that are in other states like California or Texas or wherever, and let's say that an owner is watching this and they're like, dude, I really want to incorporate music, into our home and what we do. What would be the thing that you would tell them to try first? Where would you kind of recommend that people start?
I would just, with all the social media we have, I would just put something out there saying we are looking for someone to bring in some enrichment into my care home. There's so many platforms out there. Music is really, in my opinion, the best way to get started. Or if they can have people coming in and reading stories and talking with them as well. We've had people in California say, hey, can you branch out here? We only have 2 staff members. It's myself and our program coordinator. So it's like, I would be happy to talk to anybody about how we got this started, because I think it would be wonderful in more states than Arizona. We have a lot of people from Tucson that have come to the conference where I met you, and we haven't even branched out there. That's only about an hour and a half from where we are in Maricopa County. So we would love to see this grow in other states, and I would be more than happy to talk to anybody about how they might best get this started in their home.
So in 25 years, what in kind of doing this? So like, if you could go back, what are some, I don't know if it's mistakes, but what are some things that like you wish that you knew back then? Like if somebody wanted to kind of do what you're doing, what are some tips just to kind of avoid or whatever in wanting to do this? Because obviously you've done this for 25 years and that's many years. It's a lot of coordinating.
There's a lot of coordinating. And I think the one thing that we would hopefully change is our scheduling. And this is technical here, but we schedule close to 500 music hours every month.
Wow.
And we have one person doing that. And we used to have a program prior to COVID that was just clunky. So I would bring in an IT guy really early and say, how can we make this scheduling easier? Amy, who's our program coordinator, has to send these out every month. And there's more than 500 that she has to do. So, and just, really making sure that we reach as many homeowners as we can, that we have enough musicians to go out there. Over the 25 years, there's only been a couple years that we kind of had to put a hold and we had a waiting list, but that was during the summer months. So we still have, some of our musicians leave the 115 degrees, so we're a little shorter staffed there. But that would be the main thing. As far as the music, the musicians get our mission. They get that. So our main thing is, how do we get them out there to more homes and scheduling a bit easier?
Okay. So what are there any, I don't know if there would be, but this just came to my mind. Are there any things that like you would want to avoid when it comes to music with the elderly? Is there anything that, you kind of want to stay clear of or be careful with? Anything along those lines? Or
I'm not really sure. We're always very careful. We have our guidelines. We just want to make sure we're reaching them the way they want to be reached, and that we always have a caregiver there with us, so that if someone needs to get up or someone needs to leave the room or is not doing well, then we have someone there with us. So I think we're doing really well with that. And, changing the music as we need to. We still had some years ago that just kept playing the old songs, and they weren't wanting to move into any other decade. So just being really, really mindful of that. Yeah. The ages
a little
are
more variety.
a little more variety. Yes. A little more variety. Yeah.
And if let's say some facility owners can't find volunteers or they can't get them as often as they need to be, is music any music on the radio, music on, that's still going to be the great benefits, or right?
That
yeah, go ahead.
That would be a benefit over having the TV on. Another thing we learned in the early years with the Phil Donahue shows and all of that, they have large screen TVs in these homes, and some residents with dementia, if it's in front of them, they think it's happening. And there's a lot of conflict in these homes, or I'm not in the homes, I'm sorry, during the shows, anger and combative just on the TV. So just having background soft music on the TV is beneficial as well.
Okay. Is there, I don't know if you know this, but is there like an ideal couple of times a week? Is it every day? There should be some amount of time. Like, what is your suggestion for facility owners when it comes to like how often they should be doing music? Again, this is outside of just volunteers coming in, because you can't have volunteers there every day, right? Or 3 times a week. So
correct. And I know that most of these homes, they do keep their activity calendars so you can see what they have going, but some kind of engagement every day obviously is needed. We have not gotten back to doing the crafts, but I think that's an important part. I know some even do bingo on their own, but we like to go to the homes on a weekly basis. So the residents know, say every Wednesday at 1:30, they're going to see our music angels. We have, sometimes the homes change hands. We had a home that was sold, and I reached out to the new owner, and he said, I just kind of need some time to get acclimated. And I said, I understand that. Well, within 2 weeks, he called me and he said, everyone's saying, where are the angels? Where are the angels? Because they knew Wednesday at 1:30 were there. So I think to be consistent is a really big part of this. So if you're going to have music Wednesdays at 1:30, then what are you doing on Thursdays at 1:30 to just give them a nice, consistent schedule?
Yeah. No, that's true. Consistency is kind of like everything in life. I feel like, it's when you're consistent with something, lots of good things happen. And it could be as simple as good, wholesome music that strikes up memories of the past, right? It's so cool. Do you, kind of wrapping things up here, this has been, again, music is great and it just is so powerful in so many ways, even in our own lives. But like if someone was listening today, and you wanted them to walk away with one thing about the power of music, what would that be?
Music is the universal language. We all began hearing it even as a baby. We use it to calm our babies. It has such a positive calming effects on our lives, and it's everywhere in some form or another in every day of our lives. And it could really help us in times of sadness, and it helps us even more in times of joy.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you so much, Linda, for this. If people want to learn more about how to kind of set this up in their own state and ask you those questions, or they're in Arizona and they, want to get connected, which I'm sure you're already connected, well, how would they get a hold of you? What's the best way?
You can reach us through our website. There's a contact form, and that's www.audreysangels.org, or call our office 602-795-2122.
That's awesome. Well, thanks again. And I encourage our listeners to really, incorporate music into what you're doing with your residents as often, as consistently as you can. We saw it in our own facility, how that made a difference. That's why I really wanted to kind of do this podcast because I saw the benefits of it. So I think it's once, and it's really a small, simple thing that people can do to really enhance the overall care and experience of living in one of these homes, right? To kind of eliminate as much as we can that loneliness and just make it more vibrant. So thank you so much again for doing this, and thank you everyone for listening, and we'll catch you later.
Thank you so much.
This is alchemy, empowering those who care. Owners, caregivers, they gon' get you there. Expert insights, real stories, and more. Real strategies to help you grow for sure. This the Alchemy Podcast. Creating better spaces, it's much to share. This the Alchemy Podcast. Help you build, grow, and thrive in the future of care. This the Alchemy Podcast.